Hi, so in today's video I'm going to show you how I created this cutting file that you can see on the screen, and this was a free cutting file I gave to my patrons on my Patreon page recently. But in today's video I'm going to show you how you can recreate your own and then how you can turn it into a card. So it all starts off with a circle. I'll come over to the basic shapes and I'm going to choose a circle. With the circle selected, I'm going to come to the properties box, and with the maintain aspect ratio selected, I'm going to make it 1 inch. Okay, so there's my basic circle. So now with this circle still selected, I'm going to come to the edit menu. I'm going to come to the create offset button, and I'm going to make it an outward and take the spacing down to 0.08 and say OK. Now the smaller circle, the 1 inch circle, has to be on top. So when I click in the middle here, it's outlining the outer one, so that means that's on top. So with that selected, I'm going to right click and hit send to back. Then I'm just going to left click anywhere on the page to deselect and click again in the middle here. And that's now selected the inner circle. So I now know that that one is on top because that is going to be punched out of the bigger circle to make my frame. So I'm going to select both by dragging an imaginary box around them. And I'm going to come up to edit and I'm going to choose the last option here, which is subtract. And that has now punched this smaller circle out of the bigger circle. And if I fill it with colour, you'll see what I mean. So we're literally left with a frame now with like a hole in the middle. So to make this original frame, I started off with 6 of these circles. So with this circle selected, I'm just going to hit the D key on my keyboard 5 more times. So now I've got all the 5, I'm going to select them all, right click and hit group, and then I'm just going to hold the shift key down on my keyboard and rotate the group of circles to the left 1 turn so that they are now all horizontal. With those all selected, I'm going to hit the D key on my keyboard again 2 more times. So with this set here now, I'm going to right click and ungroup them, and I'm going to get rid of the last one. So I'm going to select it and hit delete on my keyboard. Then I'm just going to select this 4 again and right click and make them a group. Then I'm going to come back to my other set of 6 and I'm going to line them up underneath the first row. They don't have to be touching, but they can be if you want, but you don't want them overlapping. So I'm just going to zoom in. So I'm just going to bring them in so they come up here. Then I'm going to select just these 2 and align them on the left edge, just so I know they line up. Then I'm going to right click and make them a group. So I've got 2 I've got 2 rows of 6 lined up and grouped. I'm going to bring the 5 back in. Position them on top of the other group. Select everything and go to edit center and edit middle. And that just positions the row of 5 now centrally and in the middle of the other 2 which are a group. I'm now going to select everything and go edit weld. So that's all one now and they're all welded together. So the next thing I'm going to do is select a rectangle. I'm going to make it just so that it sits on the edge on both sides. So it just, this right edge is only just overlapping this circle, and the same here. And then I'm going to bring this one down to do the same. I don't want it coming down or right into the middle. I want it just to touch and overlap ever so slightly. Now I'm just going to make that one red in the hope that you might be able to see it better. So you can see how it's overlapping. Just with the rectangle selected, I'm going to come to Edit, Offset. I'm going to make it about 0.28 outward, and I'm going to make sure it's on bevel because I want angled corners, not rounded corners. So now, just to make it easier for you to see, I'm going to bring the bigger square rectangle and the smaller rectangle and put the smaller one on top of the bigger one. Select both, go to Edit Center and Edit Middle. And then I'm going to make these into a frame by doing the same thing. So Edit, Subtract. The smaller rectangle has to be on top, and when I click in the middle, it's selected the bigger one. So I'm going to right click and send to back. Click on here again, and now I've only got the middle one selected, and that's what I want, so I know that's on top. So I'm going to select them both, go Edit, Subtract. So now that's a frame. So you could use that in another project if you wanted to. You could just duplicate it and save it. But for this, I'm going to put it now back over my circles, and because we're welding, it doesn't matter whether this frame is on top of the circles or underneath them. So I'm just going to select everything, go Edit Center, Edit Middle, so they're all lined up together, and then go Edit and Weld. And now they've all welded together, and if I fill it with red, you'll see I've got a frame now that looks very much like this. Now this is only 4.69 inches wide, so if I wanted to make this wider, I could either drag it out from here now, which would obviously elongate the circles, or I can drag it from a corner and make it bigger. It's entirely up to you, or you can just use it as it is. But let's just say you want to turn this into a card. So I'm going to leave it as it is at 4.69 wide. I'm going to come down here to the mat, and I'm going to zoom in on this mat, and I'm just going to bring this down, and I'm going to line the bottom edge up here with the 8.5 inch mark, which is there. Now I'm just going to come back to Fit to Mat. So at this point you could make sure this is, you know, centered on your page somewhere or within your red bounding boxes, and then you give it a name up here and save it. But as I say, I'm going to make this into a card now. So I've got the bottom edge lined up at 8.5. If I double click to expose the nodes, I'm now going to drag up this top left node until it gets to 0, and trying to keep it in a straight line. Then I'm going to drag the other one up until I've got a nice straight line. And now I've got a card. So I could come to the Path tool, I could left click once, hold the Shift key down to drag a straight line out, and double click to anchor it. With that line selected, I can go to the Properties box, I can make it a cut line, I can make it a dash line, and then I can select both and go Edit, Center, Edit, Middle, and then right click and group. So I've now got a card with a fold line. I'll take the colour out in the hope that you can see it better. So that would now give me the front of a card. You could, you know, put a greeting up here, or you could write a greeting or stamp a greeting on another piece of card and place that over this section. You could put a piece of coloured paper inside your card to show through these circles. There's lots of possibilities, but just from making a basic frame, which, you know, you could make bigger and use as a scrapbook border or something like that, you can turn it into a base card. So you would just need to come up here now, name your project, and then save it and then download it. So I hope you found that helpful. Please give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't already do so, and make sure your notification icons are switched on. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.